So those are a couple positional counters to a deep single leg. Let's look at a couple submission counters to a deep single. If Ant gets in on a deep single, again, I shouldn't have let him get here. I should have been using my head, my hands, my elbows, and my hips to stop this, but Ant knew what he was doing, got in on single, okay? From here, we saw that I can throw him with a straightforward reap or a sacrifice throw. Another option I have here is to start going for submissions right away. So one thing I can do, I can take Ant's head, I can feed his head to the outside, I can come over with my hands, feeding, pushing his head to the outside, and I get drape my body over him. Let's rotate. Now from here, I'm going to take my arm in, I'm going to start coming down the neck, bring my arm through, and I connect my hand to do a guillotine grip. Okay, we'll go over the fine details of guillotines later. Now's not the time, but understand we're attacking with a guillotine. Now from here, I want to make sure Ant doesn't pass to his right hand side to my left. So I use my right butterfly hook to make a sticky hook. If Ant tries to grab my support leg and try to pass to his right, I use my hook to keep him to my right side. Let's do this again. This way. I'm not going to do this way. Grab my leg. Again, I come in. I force Ant's head to the outside. I grab my guillotine. Now from right here, as I sit, Ant wants to pass this leg. He wants to drive this knee underneath him. He wants to get his hips on this side of the leg. But watch how I'm going to use my right foot to make that difficult. So as I hop in, and Ant's going to try to pass, I use this butterfly hook to keep him stuck. So when he tries to hop over my hips now, it's hard. I get my left leg here, up and over the hips, trap him on this side. I don't want Ant to pass. If Ant passes, it's very hard for me to finish the guillotine. If he passes my guard like that, it's very hard for me to finish. So I'm here. I keep my right butterfly hook engaged, applying outward pressure. If he tries to jump over my legs, try it with your right leg. It's hard, because this leg can't follow. It keeps this leg uncovered long enough to catch, and now I can finish my guillotines. Again, we're going to go over the details of guillotines in the future. If the guillotine doesn't work, you can always hit a hook sweep. I use the guillotines and the hook sweeps together all the time. I don't finish a lot of guillotines from guard, and when I don't, I almost always follow it up with a hook sweep. So if it goes in a single, I force the head to the outside, get my guillotine, I engage my butterfly hook. So as I try to sit to guard, he's going to try to pass. And we don't let him, and we latch. Now from here, to finish the guillotine, we crunch the chin to the chest. And if he's not finished, if he's not tapping, I like to use my butterfly hook to start to elevate, driving him up and over, so I can come up and get top position. So I really use the guillotine in tandem with the hook sweep a lot. I use those two techniques together to either get the finish. If he bases his hands out to defend the sweep, the neck is available and we squeeze the neck and we finish the neck. If he comes in and hand fights and it starts making it hard for us to finish the choke, now his hands aren't basing and it becomes easier to sweep him. So we play a submission and a basing dilemma with our partner from the guillotine. We'll look at that more in the future. Another way that we can attack our opponent with submissions as they go on a single leg, one of my favorites, is the kimura to the kimura. Ant comes in on a single leg. Again, I keep his head low. I don't want his head coming up into my chest. If his head comes up and he looks into me, this gets to be tough. He can use his head to drive me around and move me around. Yeah, it's no good. So I take his head and I stuff it. I keep his head down below my hips and I put my back on him. So now when he tries to bring his head up, it's underneath my body weight. Now my right arm sneaks through the elbow, and then I lock the kimura grip. My left hand on his right wrist, and then I grab my own wrist here. Now, just like we did for the sacrifice hook sweep, I hop to the outside ankle line. I sit and I elevate with my butterfly hook and with the kimura grip. And I sit us down here into a T kimura position. Now we're going to see a lot of good options from the T kimura depending on what my partner does. This is a fantastic position to set up traps for your partner and to funnel them into positions where you want them to go. Those movements are going to depend on what your partner does. For now, since we're not studying the T kimura, let's just say he stays where he is. And I'm just going to right pendulum to come up and take top position. And of course, you can always work on finishing the kimura as a submission once you're on top. So I'll show that one more time. Again, I'd like to use my head and my hands and my elbows and my hips to stop him from getting in. But if he gets in, he gets in. I stuff the head, I cover it to make sure he can't rise. I lock kimura. I hop to the outside ankle line. I sit back, pulling him over my head. And we have T kimura. A lot of great options we can do from here. One of the basic ones, if he doesn't do anything, we right pendulum him up and come up to the top position. If possible, we can always work on finishing the kimura from this position here. Alright, so that's if our opponent gets in deep on single legs. Next, let's talk about what to do if our opponent gets deep in on double legs. Alright? Very similar, very similar. Again, using my head, using my hands, using elbows, and using hips in a sprawl to stop his initial attacks. But what if he does get in? Well, first and foremost, your hands. If the hands are connected, that's real tough. Let's deal with unconnected hands for now. With the hands unconnected, same thing. I like to push the head down. I come here with my hand pushing the head down. Actually, back out, back out. Even before that, I just try to get my hands in his way with a down block. Back here. If he goes for a double leg and I can't get my thumb post in, I can just take my hands straight down and get my hands in front of his head, like so. Now from here, as I sprawl my legs back, I drive my right arm into his face here, and it gives a cross-face effect. And now from here, I can either work on going into a front headlock, or on getting behind and inside the elbows, and now we can start working on attacking our turtle position. So that was a down block, where I just take my arms straight down. Again, he shoots on a double, arms straight down, sprawling back, and getting to a dominant position. We can also do guillotines. He comes in on a double. Again, pushing the head down, I wrap. You can do low elbow guillotine, you can do arm in guillotine. You might be able to get high elbow, but probably not in this case. Low elbow or arm in, we'll talk more about these during our guillotine chapters. Anyway, I lock my hands. Now from here, again, when I sit back, Ant wants to pass to his right hand side. I'm going to use my right butterfly hook to make sure that doesn't happen, and even my left leg. So as I go back to the guillotine, he tries to pass. I catch. So he tries to pass. He can't because I got this hook. And now again, I can either just crunch the chin to the chest for the finish, or if he's hand fighting, and he's doing a good job defending, I can start to put in butterfly hooks and crunch. And I can force him onto his back, and I can come up on top in a sweep. We can go after kimuras, just like we did with single legs. From here, Ant shoots on the double. I start an initial sprawl, not working. I can take my right arm over the back and lock the kimura right on this grip, or right on the arm. Now from here, I sit to my butt. I take his arm up over his back. From here, he's probably going to roll through so he doesn't get submitted. I allow him to roll, and we come right back to our T kimura position. Same position we were in before. Now from here, I leg pendulum up, and I come up on top. he has extended arms now. Okay, I take advantage of those extended arms by coming through and locking a kimura grip. I sit back, taking his hand behind his back. He rolls to alleviate the pressure so he doesn't get submitted, and we land in T kimura. Now I can come up on top and take my pin. Alright, I think that's probably good. Alright, that's probably enough information for you guys to chew on. We went through a lot of good stuff there. So again, if you want to get a takedown, you do not necessarily have to initiate a takedown and dominate them on the feet. When your opponent attacks you with a takedown, they are getting themselves out of position. They're overextending a leg oftentimes. They're dropping to their knees. They're turning their back to you. They're lowering their level. They're doing all sorts of things that put them at risk of being taken down themselves. Remember that analogy of the boxer. If you have a boxer who's up here playing defensively and this is all they do, it's going to be really hard to knock them out. But as soon as that boxer starts extending their arms, starts going for their own attacks, at no other time in the fight are they going to be more vulnerable to counterattacks. When they go to attack you, they're also vulnerable. And we're seeing that same thing with takedowns. You can wait for your opponent to attack you, and then you can exploit their vulnerabilities. You can exploit how they have to take themselves out of position. If they come in for a forward throw, we hit a hip check. We shut them out with our initial hip. Then we can either drive them forward to a turtle with a throw by. If they're standing too tall, we can trip them backward. Or we can come down on a single leg. If your partner comes in for a forward throw and they drop to their knees to take away their own mobility, it adds body weight, it makes for a strong throw, but they lose mobility. If they come in, they drop to their knees, just step around the throw, step to an ankle. Once you're at an angle, grab that belt, throw them down to turtle. Once again with that powerful belt grip. Or you can come in with a counter throw because they're on their knees and you're on your feet, which gives you a big mobility advantage. If your opponent starts reaching with their feet and going for foot sweeps and trips, or they start coming in with reaps, we saw that as long as we keep our feet light, we can step off of the sweeps and step off the trips and step off the reaps. And oftentimes when our opponent goes for those trips and sweeps, they leave themselves overextended, or sometimes they leave themselves balancing precariously on only one foot, and they put themselves out of position, which makes it very easy for us to come in with our own counter sweeps, sweeping the foot out of the way, or if they have a good power hand grip, take them all the way over the top with sacrifice throws. So then we saw that. Hip checks, stepping around with the feet, stepping off them, and then the last one was dealing with shots. When our opponent shoots in, we use our head to block them out. We use our hands to block them out. We use elbows to block them out. And then ultimately, if they get to our hips, we drive our hips down to the floor using our hips to block them out in a sprawling action. If our opponent gets through all those defenses, gets through our head and our hands and our elbows and our sprawl, and they get in deep on a single leg or a double leg, we've seen that we can counter with variations of guillotine attacks and kimuras. There's other submissions we can counter with as well, and we're going to see those when we go through our submission chapters as well. But you've seen that when our opponent comes in and they start extending limbs and they start extending their neck, they become vulnerable to having their arms submitted, to having their neck submitted, or oftentimes you can catch their head and their arm, and you go after arm triangle variations or leg triangle variations as well, and we'll see those in the future too. But just walk away with this lesson. You can attack during more times than just your attacks. You don't have to just take down your opponent on your attacks, but you can also take down your opponent off of their attacks. Try your own attacks, but when your opponent attacks you, don't just be happy with defending. When your opponent attacks you, try to go the extra distance, take advantage of their overextension or their poor position, get them out of position, and you take them down even when they initiate the takedown. They initiated the takedown, but you finish it.